Hi, my friend. This is Diane Armitage. You know, a lot of people are feeling sort of blah and low and not feeling momentum right now because we've been through two really rocky, crazy, tumbly years. And everyone is kind of maybe worn out, maybe thinking, okay, how am I possibly going to pick this thing up and make it work for me in the year ahead? And I just thought that I would come in with a quick story for you to kind of give you some encouragement. Because the key here is when you begin to think like an opportunity thinker, which many millionaires, multimillionaires do, then things begin to change in your life. Now, in one of my other videos, I talked about the difference between pivoting, because a lot of people talked about pivoting in their worlds in 2020 and 2021. But when I look at pivoting, which was really an overused word and I really got tired of it, pivoting means you just completely shift direction, whereas the people who were really grounded and the people who really moved forward in their lives and continued to create amazing fulfillment for themselves, for their families, for their clients, for their worlds, these people weren't thinking about pivoting. They were just looking at problems as possibilities. And that's a whole different kind of energy and a whole different kind of mindset when you go at it that way. Now, I teach the program Legendary, and I pull all kinds of material from all kinds of things that I've written for Bob Proctor, and also from the new Lead the Field program, which is something that Bob Proctor re-upped after Earl Nightingale had taught it for years. And then he and I put finishing touches on it way back years and years ago. And I've studied it for the last 20 years. Now, I'm telling you this because one of my favorite programs is the second chapter, and there's a great story in that second chapter. And in my class, we really dig into this and we really create an activity around it. But I want to give you an idea of how this works, because you've got to get yourself into that. Okay, let's look at problems and challenges as possibilities with the expectation that I'm going to solve this thing. And instead of looking at how you need to go all the way over there or all the way over there, this story helps you realize that it's already right here under your feet. So the story is called Acres of Diamonds. You may have heard this story before, so I'll just give you a quick rundown on it. In the late 1860s, diamonds were discovered in South Africa. And by 1870, there was a giant rush on. Everybody wanted to be in on discovering the diamonds, right? And initially, the diamonds were found in rock beds, river beds, all that kind of thing, before they really started mining into the earth to find the diamonds. So at the time, there was a farmer who had a great deal of land, and he wanted to go find diamonds. And he'd been tilling this land. He'd been doing the growing of all this sort of stuff on this land, and he was done. He just wanted to go out and be the guy who found the diamonds. So he sold all of his property, and he took that money and he invested it in, mining material, and he just went out and started looking for diamonds. And he started following what other people were doing, and he started doing this and doing that and trying to find the diamonds. And after an average, I don't know, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years, he was pathetically broke. He hadn't found a single diamond. And the story goes that he actually threw himself off a bridge because he was so destitute and so despondent that he had not found his diamonds. Meanwhile, the guy who had purchased all of the property that this man had sold to him a couple years prior was walking his property one day, and there was a stream that was running through the property. And there were some strange blackish rocks that were in the stream. And of course, they turned out to be diamonds. And they didn't just turn out to be diamonds. It turned out to be one of the largest diamond mines in all of South Africa. So this man who had been sitting on his acres of diamonds, never realizing that his acres of diamonds were directly beneath his feet, had gone off in this direction thinking he needed to change his life and do this over here, instead of looking at what was the opportunity right below his feet. Now, this is the important thing to remember as you move into the new year, because what so many people do is they think, okay, I've got to run over here and do this. I've got to run over here and do this, instead of looking at all the many opportunities and hidden assets that are already right around you, that are already right in your wheelhouse, that you can work on, that you can create new solutions from. Okay. Now, let me give you a couple examples. Well, one of the big examples was my marketing company, which is the other arm of my world. When 2020 hit and everything was shut down, we, recreate websites and all this sort of thing for people. Well, one of the most interesting things that happened was that there were a lot of people who did, you know, events. They did events, and we helped these people with their events. They were the Tony Robbins and the Deepak Chopras and the Jack Canfields and the Mark Victor Hansons and the Bob Proctors, and all these people out there were used to doing all these big events. And even people who were training in physical fitness were doing, certifications here in this city and that city and this city. And all of a sudden that couldn't happen anymore. So everything moved to online. Now, did this mean that they had to pivot? Absolutely not. They already had the curriculum. They already knew what they were teaching every day. They already knew exactly what they needed to do. And a lot of them already had it in video. So it wasn't a pivot. It was looking at the problem and thinking of the possibility of what they could do by taking everything online. And that's what we did. We were really busy in 2020 helping all these people take their material online. So there's an example of what, when we were looking at the situation from my company standpoint, and we were the ones who were doing all the support for events, this was something that we looked at and said, okay, how about we start offering this? And then people started coming to us with the very same problem who needed the solution. Now, there are much sexier and more fun stories to tell, of course. A few years ago, my company was working in a joint venture with another large marketing company. And one of the co-founders of that particular company had been responsible for coming up with the Apple Genius Bar. Okay, so here's an interesting idea. So the Apple Genius Bar was put in place years and years ago. And anyone that I talk to and I say Apple Genius Bar, everyone pretty much knows what that is. You walk into the Apple store, and at the end of the Apple store is a long line. It's a big bank, and people are sitting there with their computers and their phones and their iPods and all their stuff. And they have the geniuses on the other side who are helping them through the problem. Now, this is an interesting thing to think about, because back in that day, when all these people were shifting, all these millions of people were shifting over to the Apple Macintosh system, the Apple system, they didn't know what they were doing. It was a completely different operating system. And so rather than hide all of this behind doors and keep telling people, oh, okay, no, it's easy, even though I did found it to be very easy, what they did was they were like, okay, hey, let's put this in our stores so that people know that we have geniuses here available to help them with any problem that they may have. In fact, instead of just the Genius Bar, let's add in free classes that people can take so that they can learn from these geniuses on how to operate this thing or that phone or this thing or that phone, whatever, right? It was genius. It wasn't just a Genius Bar, it was genius. So they took the situation of people grappling with this whole new operating system, and they pulled it out from behind the curtains and put it right into the store. And it became a selling point, a huge selling point for Apple, because you knew you always had a genius there for you. You knew that you could always schedule an appointment and get in there and learn more about what you needed to learn about this particular thing that you had. So how amazing is that? That's not pivoting. That's understanding and recognizing the possibility and solving the problem by thinking of the possibility and the opportunity of what you have at your hand. Now, one of the more fun stories that I tell is about my brother is a real estate broker up in Oregon. I have my real estate license down here in Laguna Beach. And, we talk quite often back and forth. And he is in the Willamette Valley where all the beautiful wine country is. And he has a client named Saj who he had built out a large winery. He had a huge vineyard. He had everything rocking and rolling. And my brother was trying to sell a property on the other side of town, and it was horrible. I mean, it was about 3 acres, and it was just full of concrete pilings and concrete debris. And the guy who had owned the property had allowed, the city, the state, the Department of Transportation to just kind of dump their big concrete debris there over the years. And so it had just become this pile of concrete and asphalt and all this stuff. Well, selling that property was going to be a challenge because it was so undervalued, because it was going to be a giant cleanup. And in most estimates, it was going to be like around $1 million to clean up just these 3 acres. So no one really wanted to take that on. And they weren't going to take it on at full price of what the property was really worth if it were clean. And so my brother worked a deal with his client Saj and said, all right, let's make this happen for you. They brought the price down because Saj said, well, I'm going to have to do this much in cleanup. Done deal. He bought the property. So as he began to investigate how he could clean it up, he got an idea that was way beyond thinking of, okay, I've got to bring in these people to remove all this stuff. His goal was to set up an RV park there, a really high class RV park that would make it easy for people to park there and go to all the different wineries and all the different vineyards in the area. So he decided that instead of carting all this stuff off, why wouldn't he just churn it all up and make it his road base on the property? Now, talk about acres of diamonds. Instead of having to bring in all kinds of material to create the road base, he already had it there. But nobody saw that except him. And he didn't even discover it until actually when he started doing the research on how to actually clean this up. So he brought in a big churner, like a big concrete churner thing, and he spent, a few $100,000 on it, minimal few $100,000 on it, instead of millions of dollars on it. And he had his beautiful road base. It was all done. And so now he's finishing out this whole RV park, and he's got like a tasting room of his wines, of course, and he's got a little restaurant that's going in, and he's actually signed a deal with a giant entity that provides RVs, and they're putting some of their new machines, their new RVs into the park so that people can actually just come in and rent them. They don't have to own their own RV and hook it up there. So that is an amazing example of a multimillionaire, self-made multimillionaire who thought of the possibility instead of the problem. Now, as you go into your year and as you deal with what's going on out there, remember, the economy is in your mind. The economy is in your mind. It is what is in your ears. It is what is in your conscious mind to your subconscious mind, and what creates the action from that committed decision that you are creating in your own mind. So as you look at what is looking like a problem out there or a challenge out there, how can you make that a possibility? How can you make that an opportunity? What can you do to really get creative, make it fun, get some passion involved, and look at what you've got right beneath your feet to solve this challenge, to take care of this problem, and to boost your company, boost yourself, boost whatever you have in your life to a whole new level because you're a possibility thinker. Now, I know that sounds like kind of a trite thing, possibility thinker, but this is what it is. This is what it is. You have every resource available to you, and it just wants to come into your life and make it happen. So when you begin to recognize the resources you have within you and under your feet, all of the resources around you begin to magnetically connect and interlock with what you have going on. I can guarantee it. And it's what makes it a fun exploration and a fun journey in your world. All right? So let's think about it in that direction, and let's move forward in this year in that direction. And I'm going to look forward to hearing your stories of how you turned problems into possibilities, which then became probabilities, which then became reality. I know it's going to happen for you. So let's get started. You have a great day.